Welcome once again to 1800 with BTS. We're going to continue with the Beyond the Story book. I hope you enjoyed the first season 1 in the dorms. According to J-Hope, that is what he described as the time period before Jungkook showed up. I hope you're all having a wonderful day or evening. And it's a pleasure to share with you chapters from the BTS book, Beyond the Story. Shall we begin? Season 2. As BTS's debut began shaping up, the trainees at Big Hit Entertainment were divided into two groups. One was the high-potential group of trainees who seemed ready for their debut, and the other group was made up of trainees whose debut wasn't yet confirmed. RM, Suga, and J-Hope were in the first group. I thought, wow, I want to be there too, because I'd come here because of Rap Monster. Jungkook was famously brought on by Big Hit Entertainment in 2011 at one of the auditions for Superstar K3, a TV audition program on Mnet. The story of how a Busan middle schooler named John Jungkook decided to come to Cheonggu Building in Seoul is a bit more complicated than that. Jungkook had already received business cards from 7 different entertainment companies during the Superstar K3 auditions. None of them really told me why they wanted to sign me. I remember one of the companies wanted me to come to a hotel room near the Superstar K3 audition site for an audition. They wanted to get a video of me singing. The first reason Big Hit managed to beat the odds and secure Jungkook was, oddly enough, MBC's star audition, The Great Birth, a direct competitor to Superstar K. On that show, Bangtan was featured as a mentor for the auditioning hopefuls. Jungkook says, Bangtan was famous, according to my dad, and he suggested I try going into his company. Just as RM used the internet to learn about rap artists, Jungkook searched the internet for more information on Big Hit Entertainment and learned of the rapper trainees there who were preparing for their debut, including RM, whose rap videos were available on YouTube. Jungkook says, Hyung's rap was great, and his English was so impressive, I said, this is where I'll go. But when he auditioned for Superstar K3, Jungkook wasn't sure he wanted to be a singer necessarily. Sports, art, music, I was pretty good at arts and sports, which made me think, maybe this is where my aptitude is. So as I was wondering whether to do sports or art, I thought, why not try becoming a singer? That was a job a lot of people would appreciate, so I auditioned. It wasn't exactly a joke, but I wasn't worrying myself going, what if I fail either? Meeting Rap Monster, whom Jungkook had gotten to know through an internet search, as well as a host of other rappers at the dorm he eventually entered, was like seeing a new world open before him. From his first day there in June 2011, it was like getting several older brothers all at once. Jungkook remembers. J-Hope would come back to the dorm really late and take out a meal from the fridge and eat it, while going, do you want some? To me. And the Hyungs would take their new little brother everywhere. Jungkook laughs as he remembers. Not long after I entered the dorm, one of the Hyungs played a prank on me. He claimed anyone who just moved in had to buy everyone bingsu. So I did, and we all ate it together. The three Hyungs who had gone to auditions to achieve their dream. The little brother who went to an audition program and became a trainee after being inspired by such Hyungs. This slight generational difference foreshadowed that the world was about to change, not only for Jungkook but for the rapper trainees as well. This season 2, as referred to by J-Hope, was a prelude to Idol season. To the future members of BTS, idols, along with hip-hop and their bond with each other, became another cornerstone of their identity. Each in their position. V also had a less than smooth journey from his hometown of Daegu to the Cheonggi building in the fall of 2011. We were ripped off by the cab driver. My dad and I got on and paid 38,000 won to go from Express Bus Terminal to Sinsi Station. I remember clearly that we passed 3 tunnels. I still remember what the cabbie said as we got off. Careful, lots of people here try to force customers into premium taxis to rip you off. Footnote: the 2 points are only about 2 kilometers apart, and there is no need to enter any tunnel. Even in 2023, more than 10 years since this incident, the cab ride would cost about 6,000 won on an ordinary taxi during the daytime. I think, that happens in a lot of countries. The moment V first entered the dorm was like arriving at a new and mysterious world. V remembers. Jungkook was at a lesson, so he wasn't home, and J-Hope, RM, and Suga were there. V didn't think his expectations from before he arrived in Seoul would change. He says, I figured I would not be in the same team as them. The 3 of them love music and do hip-hop, and I guess I'm just someone who's only living here with them. V, a high school fresher, had become a trainee at Big Hit only 6 months after he had begun taking dance classes. Ever since he had sung on stage at his elementary talent show, he had wanted to become a performer, and he had played the saxophone since his first year in middle school with the goal of entering an arts high school. But K-pop dance was something he had learned in a hagwon over a period of 6 months. This was why he had no intention of auditioning when the A&R team at Big Hit had come down to Daegu to his dance hagwon to find new trainees. V says, just the fact that an entertainment company would come down from Seoul was a novelty to me, so I went just to watch. They had auditioned only the kids who had gone to the hagwon for 2-3 years when at the end, one of the A&R people pointed at me and said, can we see that kid dance too? And then I got in. Around the time V entered the dorm, RM, Suga, and J-Hope were already working at a recording studio provided by Big Hit Entertainment. The 3 were already posting songs on the BTS blog before their debut, having built up enough expertise in rap, composing, and dance to hold long discussions on these subjects. Suga, in particular, was desperate to debut. Father used to hate people in music, but once I passed my audition and began showing up on posters, he would brag about me a lot. It made me think I'd better debut soon. Even if I'd failed to make a mark, I wanted to have debuted. In contrast, Jungkook and V only began training in vocals and dance in earnest when they joined the dorm in 2011. To V, the trio of RM, Suga, and J-Hope were already artists. V recalls, the three Youngs were so good at music, so dedicated to their work, and they seemed like experts to me. I was just happy to be a trainee by their side. Having just started as a trainee, the prospect of a debut seemed very far away to V. But just 6 months later, when Jimin came up from Busan in May 2012, the others, including V, struck him as being ready to debut immediately. Jimin recalls, I'm very shy, and I was nervous. I was trembling. I came to the dorm, and there were so many shoes in the foyer. The shoes overflowed into the apartment. But even that was really cool. The Hyungs came out, and they were trainees, but already looked like celebrities to me.
Get a jumpstart on your Christmas shopping with great deals on gifts at Telstra's Black Friday sale.
Sorry about that. There's an ad. Okay. So, where were we? Jimin. Yes. The Youngs came out and they were trainees, but already looked like celebrities to me. RM in particular looked exactly as a celebrity should. And V was such a classic idol, really handsome, and wearing a red snapback cap. The older boys who did hip-hop and the boy was the same age and looked as good as any idol. The trainees, as seen through Jimin's eyes, were already entering their idol season. Rappers who lived and died by hip-hop, the dancer who was influenced by them to write his own rap lyrics, the vocalist who was just learning to dance, and the youngest who showed potential in both song and dance. Jimin found it difficult to imagine such disparate talents ever coming together as one team. Jimmy says, I was convinced the Hyungs would debut first as a hip-hop group. But Jimin's arrival was a preview of how the planning for their group would go in a different direction. If they were to become an idol group together, Jimin would join J-Hope as one of the main dancers, but bring a completely different sort of flair to the team. Before he came to Seoul, Jimin had already been spending his teenage years in dance. We had an after-school breakdance club, and I remember a bunch of boys just got together and said, hey, do you want to try this? Which became, should I really? We gathered to practice on Saturdays when we didn't have school, and then did an actual performance. That's when I felt it, the thrill. I completely fell for dance. Jimin's main criterion for choosing a high school was also a place I can learn dance. And hoping to become acquainted with a larger variety of dance, he specialized in contemporary dance at the Busan High School of Arts. To his parents, he explained his goals of learning dance in Busan, auditioning, and moving to Seoul. He remembers his first impressions of the capital. I thought, well, Seoul is the same as Busan. Like, that's it? Jimin laughs. I had come with my father because I was transferring schools. Unfortunately, Jimin, like V, also fell victim to a taxi scammer. Jimin says, it might take as little as 15 minutes to get from Express Bus Terminal to the company offices, but it took over half an hour. I'd taken a taxi because I wasn't familiar with the subway lines, and the fee came out very high. My father had gone down with me to Busan, but the day I went to the dorm, I came to Seoul alone. And that's when I first met J-Hope, who had come out to get me. Are you Mr. Park Jimin? J-Hope laughs. J-Hope still recalls the moment he first met Jimin. That's how we first said hello. Jimin? Park Jimin? Like that. We said hello and talked on the way up to the dorm. I asked him if he danced, and he said, yes, I did popping. And I said, hey, I did street dancing too. I hope we'll be able to help each other. That kind of thing. It was a somewhat awkward conversation. Jimin laughs. It's not easy to imagine a rapper from the Hongdae stage and a contemporary dance major who started out as a break dancer making music in the same team. But approximately 8 years later, in early 2020, BTS would combine elements of both disciplines in Black Swan. This melding of contrasting talents occurs sometimes in the K-pop industry, where idol groups are normally composed of a variety of positions such as rapper, dancer, and vocalist. And the members' even more diverse personalities and backgrounds become a touchstone that allows their fans to emotionally immerse themselves in their characters and music, as long as a harmonious team was formed in the first place. A team spearheaded by a group of underground rappers that included a middle schooler who had just started lessons needed more than just cohabitation to cohere into a group. They needed some form of alchemy. Trainee dorm life. I was food. Jin laughs. Thinking back to his casting at Big Hit Entertainment in the spring of 2011, what the worker in charge of signing him had promised him back then, technically, hasn't come to fruition. Jin continues. Look at how idols these days go into acting. We'll let you become an actor eventually. That's how they convinced me. They were very persuasive. Indeed, around that time, it wasn't uncommon for a member of an idol group to also be working as an actor at the same time. While some members specialized in singing and dancing, others were more known for appearing in variety shows or dramas on television, pulling in audiences from outside the idol market. As Korea's idol market expanded with the rise of BTS's popularity and more acts began performing overseas, fewer idols ventured into acting. Jin, for one, became too busy doing stadium tours around the world with BTS, which naturally made him focus on his work as a musician. But many idols to this day continue to sing and act at the same time. Jin had entered university as an acting major. His interest in idol music sprung from his curiosity about artistic activities in general. Jin says, I do like to try different things. I figured I'd be able to have a variety of experiences if I were an idol and an actor at the same time. Laughing, he adds, reality had other plans. Until he became a Big Hit Entertainment trainee, Jin had a happy, fairly relaxed upbringing. Jin himself describes his childhood in Gyeongsang, Gyeonggi Province. I could just go down to the playground and my friends would be hanging out, and if I ever wanted to talk to anyone, I just call them up and say, hello, I'm such and such. All the kids in the neighborhood were friends with each other, and our parents would befriend each other as well. Walking down the street, you'd run into someone you'd say hello to every 5 or 10 minutes. Even moving from Gyeongsang to Seoul didn't change his life much. Jin's parents once suggested he go to the country and try out the farm life. My parents said, let's try different things to see what you have an aptitude for. And that my granddad, grandma, and uncle were farmers, so why not try farming for a bit? That's how I ended up growing strawberries and melons for a month. I did so much pruning for the melons that I didn't want to eat melons for a long time after that. Jin laughed. Jin is the oldest member of BTS. When he signed with Big Hit Entertainment, he was 18, and his first year of university. At the age when most Korean youth begin thinking about what they want to do with their lives, Jin says, "Since becoming a trainee, I worked hard during practice hours, but I didn't exactly stake my life on it, as they say." The future he had vaguely imagined for himself was to keep training, debut as an idol, and at some point incorporate acting into his schedule. And so Jin continued to go back and forth from his home to training sessions at Big Hit. But in the summer of 2012, when he entered dorm life, Jin had no choice but to change his entire lifestyle. By the time he joined the other boys at the dorm, the lineup for BTS had been decided, and that meant the content and quantity of Jin's training would change drastically. Jin thinks back to those days. The company did not tell us we were going to debut, in so many words. We were almost the only trainees left at the dorm at that point, which made me think, I guess it's going to happen soon. Jin also remembers his first impressions of the dorm. He sighs. Clothes strewn everywhere, cereal scattered on the floor. The dishes hadn't been done. On January 27, 2013, Jin made a posting on the BTS blog titled, "How Trainees Usually Make Chaguk." His ambition had been to create a proper meal he could share with the other members. For example, Suga would basically just eat to live. He ate chicken breasts for protein, but even eating them was too much of a hassle for him, so he would blend it with some grape juice and a banana and gulp that down straight from the blender. I had a taste of it and thought, nope, this isn't it, and cooked up some things that I sprinkled with hot sauce or steak sauce. Before staff was hired some months later to help with the cooking and cleaning, Jin managed to coordinate the other members into taking turns with chores. As with many other people, cooking and cleaning were key activities for Jin in maintaining a semblance of a normal life. The problem was, Jin himself had to admit that they were simply getting too busy for normality. After about 3 months there, I finally realized why they had come to live the way they did. On days when we had a lot of rehearsals, we'd be working 14 hours out of a 24-hour day. School of Hip Hop. Dewey Finn, played by Jack Black, the main character in the movie School of Rock, is a nameless musician who, under false pretenses, gets a job at an elementary school in place of a friend who is a licensed teacher. When he realizes how talented the students are, he tries to put them together into a rock band. The students, however, know nothing of rock music, and Dewey ends up teaching them the history of rock and roll during class instead of the usual curriculum. If one were to switch rock music with hip-hop, this school of hip-hop was what went on in the BTS dorm. RM created a playlist of artists including Drake, Nas, the Notorious B.I.G., and Tupac Shakur for his fellow members who were less familiar with the genre. RM says, I made a list of about 50 acts whom we could listen to together. We did ciphers to develop our rapping sensibilities and deliberately watched videos together. That RM had took it upon himself to be the Jack Black of the dorm was because BTS was mired in a uniquely terrible situation in the world of idol music. Big Hit Entertainment had debuted a girl group called Glam a year before BTS, with a docu-series of their formation shown around that time on SBS MTV, now known as SBS-M. Teaser trailers for their debut were also released on YouTube. But unfortunately, glam never caught on in popularity, and Big Hit Entertainment was saddled with a sizable financial burden. When a small to medium-sized entertainment company fails at an idol project, the consequences are more treacherous than anything that can be described in words. As Suga describes the mood back then, I thought the company was going to go under. But to RM, the biggest problem they were facing was that their group, which was about to debut, didn't seem to know in what direction they were supposed to go musically. RM says, Bang Se-yuk and I would have the members listen to artists like A$AP, Rocky, or Lil Wayne, but the members who joined later on knew Big Hit as a company created by the Bang Se-yuk who had made 2AM and 8 and had worked at JYP Entertainment. But now they were being asked to do hip-hop and rap. It must have presented for them some confusion. The best RM could do was to talk to the debut imminent group about hip-hop as much as possible. Right until their debut, RM, Suga, and J-Hope's School of Hip-Hop was holding non-stop classes. Some nights, they would come home after rehearsals, ended at 11 p.m., and talk about music until 6 a.m. with no sleep. Thankfully, the students of this school were very diligent. V recalls, there was a time when RM, Suga, and J-Hope would sit us for 4 vocalists down and very seriously say, I really think you should listen to this song. Or, let me teach this to you. RM put so much care into putting together the best songs in hip-hop history that I couldn't possibly say no to him. His care was so palpable that I felt I absolutely had to listen to these songs a lot, even if I happened to dislike them. Actually, if you all have watched the Suchrita episode with V, he did say proudly that he listened to everything, and he was one of the members that listened to a lot of music, like a lot, every day. So he was pretty dutiful. The classes were slowly paying off, V says. Since then, I've come to a point where I'm proud of saying I listen to music the most among all the members. Listening to all that hip-hop back then made me fall in love with it. I would ask the Hyungs to recommend more music, and I would find my own tracks to listen to as well. So it's here in the book. V's response has something to do with how the classes were taught. This is how Jimin remembers RM, Suga, and J-Hope's teaching. The Hyungs would say things like, isn't this the coolest? And show us all the gestures the artists would make themselves as they played us the songs. At first, it was just fun and laughter. But there came a point where I saw how it really was the coolest. I thought, this music these youngs are into. This is real music. Jimin adds, that's how we were indoctrinated into the hip-hop mindset. He laughs. You have to say, though. Well, I have to say, the fact that Jimin, Jin, Taehyung, and Jungkook were very receptive. You know, they were very good at listening. Yes, the 3 Hyungs and rappers, you know, RM, Suga, and Jo were wonderful, encouraging, brilliant teachers. But you also need wonderful students, receptive students, students who are willing to learn and to listen. And they had just the perfect combination, all of them. The battle for razor sharp dance. It's on the book. It's written. Yes, that's J-Hope. When asked about BTS training process before their debut, J-Hope playfully lets out an exaggerated groan before elaborating. It was J-Hope. The alarm goes off at 10 a.m. and we grab a salad, some bread, and chicken breast and go to the practice studio. Then we practice and review ourselves as we keep screaming, ah! ah, and start all over again. Then it's ah again, and all of a sudden it's 10 p.m. Then we go back to the dorm and sleep ad nauseum. As previously mentioned, Big Hit Entertainment had more trainees than one would expect from a company of their size. Any entertainment company just starting out with 30 trainees would inevitably need to prioritize resources. The practice studios were always crowded, and the trainees had to take turns with lessons. Jin says, "When I got to rehearsals after school, there would be 4 studios, and the boy trainees would be gathered in one studio. The other studios were being used to prepare Glam for their debut. But with the tepid reception of Glam by mainstream audiences, the company reallocated the resources to BTS. Except this time, the resources were being reallocated under a greater financial strain. Which was why, once the BTS members were confirmed to debut, Big Hit Entertainment was forced to release all their other trainees from their contracts. This was how the time and space to train the 7 boys who would become BTS was procured. The rehearsal times also increased significantly. If RM, Suga, and J-Hope were running a hip-hop school in the dorm after hours, the practice studios were a war zone of dance. It would be fair to say that the members had more trouble getting used to dancing than getting used to hip-hop. With hip-hop, the trio of RM, Suga, and J-Hope at least had similar sensibilities, and the younger members only had to follow the example of the older ones. But the only members back then who were used to dancing were J-Hope and Jimin. RM and Suga hadn't even imagined they would need to learn dance. J-Hope explains, "Suga and RM told me once that they thought we were going to become a group like One Time and wouldn't have to dance at all. One Time was a hip-hop group that included Teddy, who had also produced Big Bang, 21, and Blackpink. They became popular in the late 1990s and early 2000s during the rise of hip-hop in Korea, and it seems RM and Suga had assumed BTS would follow in their footsteps as a hip-hop group with mainstream appeal. Of course, One Time, like BTS, emphasized the role of vocalists as well as rappers, and they had some choreographed movement in their acts. But according to Jin, BTS reset their mandate to become an over-performance group. Of the mood in the training sessions at the time, Jin says, "The proportion of our training taken up by dance actually wasn't that big in the beginning, but suddenly, dance became important and our training time for it went up a lot. We trained really hard, especially in the 2 months before our debut, and there were days when we would be dancing for 12 hours. Anyone reading this book is sure to understand what overperformance means. Not long after, in their performances for their debut song, No More Dream, Jimin would execute a move where he would, with a boost from Jungkook, fly into the air and walk across the backs of the other members standing in a line. But the acrobatics was not all that made the overperformance training so arduous. Jin adds, "Bang Shiyuk asked for a little too much back then." He laughs. He would be watching playback of our performances on a PC and press spacebar to pause. Then he would critique every angle of our bodies and even our finger placements. He watched our dancing frame by frame. We danced the same choreography for 2 months. As Jin described, BTS practiced the choreography for No More Dream to the point where they were in sync right down to every single frame. Amazing, huh? 2 a.m., Glam, and the 4 years it took for Big Hit Entertainment to debut BTS was basically the company catching up to the past 20 years of the industry. It was an endeavor that required much research. The company analyzed the factors that made successful idol groups into hits and regularly consulted industry experts for their advice. Occasionally, Big Hit would post a reward for anyone in the company who would come up with the best proposal for the production of a successful artist. What Bang Si-hyuk learned in this process was that idols moved to a completely different beat compared to the music industry that came before. Idol music exploded onto the scene with the debut of Sataji and Boys in 1992. And with the 1996 debut of HOT, an industrialized production system was put in place. BTS debuted as the idol system approached the 20th year of its golden age. Its first teenage fans were now in their 30s, and as fandom culture developed over the years, the content and standards the fans demanded also became clearer. Kalgunmu, or razor-sharp group dancing, was such content. Razor-sharp group dancing. That was precision, yeah? Or precise dancing. As much content. Fans wanted their favorite groups to create awe-inspiring moments of perfect synchronized dancing. Not only did such perfection bring a visual joy to their fans, but it also served as proof of how hard the members had worked on their teamwork in order to achieve it. But to Bang Si-hyuk was part of Korea's first generation of hip-hop and R&B producers at JYP Entertainment, Kalgunmu was not something he was even considering. In hip-hop, dancing was more about emphasizing the personalities of each performer, which led to less pressure for perfectly synchronized movements. But in the world of idol music, Kalgunmu was the law of the land. And while there was an absolute need to follow this law, Jin remembers that even for idol singers, BTS had ended up in the overperformance category of artists. Sure, group dancing is essential for idols, but our dancing was more intense than the usual, Jin says. As their mandate for reconciling the genre characteristics between hip-hop and idol music became clearer, BTS was required to practice even harder. At night, there was the School of Hip-Hop, convened by RM and Suga, who became students during the day at the School of Dance, alongside the others who were not used to dancing. J-Hope was a teacher in this latter school. He talks of those days. Jimin and I were the only members who learned dance before we entered the company. I felt like the first thing we needed to do was to help the other members find dancing fun. Outside of our regular training sessions, we occasionally practiced at dawn. It was kind of like the den of rap, where we would put on a beat and try freestyling. Rap had become fun for me during those sessions, and I wanted the same thing to happen with dance for the others. I just put on music and go, now dance, just dance, however way you want, that kind of thing. Fortunately, the members were very diligent about their studies in the school. J-Hope continues. We came together a lot better in training than expected. When Suga became obsessed with dance, he would even joke, I don't want to rap anymore, let's dance. It's hard to believe, I bet, but he and I once went to Hongdae to learn breaking. J-Hope laughs. Well, let's stop there. I hope that was fun and enjoyable for you as much as it was for me. Till next time, this is 1800 with BTS. Have a good day, have a good night.